Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great week. Today I want to get into my price targets and then do a little bit of a deeper dive on my analysis and my thinking behind those price targets. If you want to see the full valuation model, links in the description on Patreon. I will eventually be doing one on agronomics as well, but honestly, I don't really care that much about price targets. I'm doing this more as a personal learning just to do some private investing and modeling of finances because I'm interested in learning that. And I thought it'd be interesting to share with others who are interested as well. This isn't financial advice. This is me sharing some of my thinking and sharing some of my own research. For my price targets for cold food science, I have, I just wrote them on my phone here. So my bear case is 6 cents a share. My base case is 13 cents a share. And my bull case is 37 cents a share. So that's all Canadian dollars. Again, prices could change with the fluctuation in currency, but that's kind of around what I'm thinking right now. Now let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into those numbers. Before I get into my own analysis, I want to look back at the announcement Cold Food Science made. They'd updated their website well over a week ago, but they officially made their announcement on January 9th that they are launching a product platform. So they're announcing their own food brands that leverage cellular agriculture. They're starting out with a coffee product and they're starting out with a candy product. And if we look at their news release from January 9th, we can see here that they have their coffee and their candy product, and the new Cult Foods division is designed to quickly iterate and release cell-based products by leveraging the innovations and technologies already present within the company's portfolio for maximum effect. By designing and launching novel cell-based products, Cult will both accelerate the positive impact that these technologies have and bring entirely new experiences to market for consumers. So if we just look at their portfolio, we can see here that we have coffee and we have candy, which is a gummy made with cell-based collagen. Likely from their portfolio, the companies they're working with to release these products are Gelitech. So they produce animal-free collagen. And we have Compound Foods, who's working on coffee. They could also be working with California Cultured, who is working in coffee, but I think their focus now, at least in the eyes of Cold Food Science, is on chocolate. So it probably the case is that their patents that they're working with would be with Compound Foods. Just something interesting to note. This model is reactive. All I'm doing is I'm looking at the financial statement from September of last year, and I've then just added in a few numbers around the Cult branded products. These numbers are nothing special. If you watched my last video, you'll have seen that traditionally VC firms that are in the early stage target 100x valuation return. So for all of the safe investments, we're looking at when we make an investment, in theory, each of those companies should bring back 100x return. In reality, that doesn't actually happen. You have maybe 2 to 3 companies that achieve that. So when I'm doing my analysis, I'm saying, okay, in the worst case possible, these Cult branded products don't take off at all. They bring zero money in. Of their investments, which right now makes up the majority of the share price, only 5 of them reach a 10x valuation return. So even really in the worst case scenario, yeah, they could go to zero, the whole thing could fail. But, also 5 companies could reach a 10x valuation, and none of these other investments, equity or convertible, really return much of anything, and their own food products don't take off. So kind of in the worst case scenario, we're looking at 6 cents a share. At the base case, which this is how I think probably mainstream analysts would try and value the company today. So you would say, again, traditionally you probably say, between 1 and 3 portfolio companies will bring in an 100x return. So if I'm looking at the company and I was like, well, I don't know anything about this, then I'm just going to assign one company to reach 100x return. So we get 12 cents a share with that. And then I've added in, each just is going to double in value from when they bought it. BSF will 2x. And that gives you an extra 1 cent a share. So we have 13 cents there. At this stage, Cult Food Science is also selling 2 of their products at fairly low volumes with fairly low margins, so that doesn't actually give us anything in the share price. But still, we're already at 13 cents in that base case. And this is kind of how I think most traditional analysts would look at the company. For me, my bear case, which is my bull case for right now, again, I don't know enough about the company and I have enough risks that I haven't modeled out here, but they're in my head and I've just kind of wrote them down on column C. So I'm kind of just saying, well, for this year at least, until I know a little bit more about what the company's doing, my biggest risk I think is around just this fact that VC firms traditionally don't trade well in public markets. And so I think if Cult Food Science can really ramp up their branded products, you would think in the long term they're going to have way more than 2. If they're really building an ecosystem of helping startups grow but also building their own products with some other IP that they get, they would be doing more investments and they would also have a lot more of their own branded products. So if that's the case, there could be a case where they bring in enough income to grow this, and they also bring enough income so they don't have to dilute their shares as much in their other investments. And so that could in turn do very interesting things to the stock. So I think in my base case, personally, which I'm putting as my bull case, I'm going to say, we're going to actually hit those 3 companies, which reached 100x valuation. And, if I really wanted to get into a bull case, I'd have a lot more of their own branded products. But let's just say they only sell 2, and they sell them at fairly medium volumes, and, they get pretty good margins for them. That only brings in, because we have so many shares, and the shares are generally dilutive because Cult has a lot of debt. So our share price for their own products right now at medium volumes margins is just 1 cent. But if we say 3 companies reach 100x valuation return, which is kind of the standard metric that you put on early stage VCs, then you say, well, okay, this number could make sense. So I think for me personally, my biggest risk is they are seen as a VC firm, but if they can ramp up their own products and use that to fund things and just build a bigger company, then they become less of a VC firm and more of a food company, which I think is super interesting. And honestly, this is why I like them over agronomics. Also, like I've said in previous videos, high risk, high reward. So that's my thinking. If you want more of the detailed numbers around their products, kind of my rough numbers for that, and the math behind all the other investments, how I got to these numbers, you can find this valuation model in the link in the description. Last thing I want to do is just to look at, I have found one mainstream financial firm who's covering Cult, or at least they've done a little bit of research, and my base case, I'm thinking, should align roughly with what they're saying. So I just want to see what that is. This was done fairly recently on January 10th, so just a few days ago. And they have their value for the stock at 10 cents a share. So currently we're undervalued at, well, if we're at 3 cents, we're at a 69% discount. Again, they're really just looking at numbers here, and they're probably not doing too many projections. It's also interesting that this came out on the 10th of January, and they've put called signs as a consumer defensive packaged foods company. So that's very interesting. This is the first ever financial report I've seen done by a third party on Cult. So it's very interesting that this is coming out right after the announcement of their food company. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes in the next year, because it looks like these guys are seeing them as a food company. So that could do some interesting things to the share price. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, I honestly more interested in the tech side of this, so I'm going to be spending a lot more time going back to some taste tests. Eventually I'll get into agronomics. Eventually I'll do some analysis on that, but it's really not where my interest is. I'm just doing this more personally to learn. If you're interested in financial stuff, you can probably skip the next 10 videos because I'm not going to get back into that for a little while. I will do one more video on Cult, and then I'm going to be going back into some technology and some of the portfolio companies as well, and just some other companies. There's some really cool stuff happening in this space. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.